All right, I will now begin the meeting of the City of Newark, Newark Unified School District Liaison Committee meeting. We'll start with a roll call. I see all members are in attendance this evening, so we can move on to the minutes. The approval of the minutes from our last meeting of June 23, 2025. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second. Motion and a second. We'll vote by a voice vote. Member Jones?
Yes.
Member Hill?
Yes.
Mayor Hannon?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. The minutes are approved. We'll move on to old business. Update on the Newark Unified School District 711 committee process. Superintendent, I'll look to you.
Good evening. So this process kind of continues for us. We are in the process of getting ready to interview for our asset management firm that will come in and actually help evaluate our properties and provide a report back to the board so the board then can give better direction to the 711 committee. I'll let my board members share some additional information. Member Hill sits on our subcommittee along with Austin Block, and we look forward to having those interviews hopefully here in the next couple weeks with a recommendation back to the board, hopefully on the 17th of March.
Thank you, Superintendent. Just to add a little bit additional. So when we started down this process, I mean, we recognized obviously that we have properties potentially that either we're not using or that are underused, and that we need to evaluate our situation, but we really wanted to look at it from a portfolio perspective. And we had brought in a consultant. We initially were going down the path of going and doing a direct 711 committee, but I think that what we realized is that the 711 process really almost starts with specific properties in mind, and we didn't feel that we were quite ready to do that. And so we have a very good qualified 711 committee consultant, and so she's now helped the superintendent identify I believe it's three, right?
There's 3 priority goals.
No, the consultants.
It's 3 consultants, yes.
Yeah, so 3 consultants who can actually come in and do a quick evaluation of the entire portfolio. And the intent is to literally look at every property, even ones that are currently being used, and say, okay, here's the property, here's where it's located, here's the footprint, here in terms of square footage, here's any amenities, here's what the estimated value is, and then here's what it's being used for as well, because I think that we want to collect and understand what all the uses are, and then we can decide, well, are the properties that we are using, is that like the best place that we should perform these certain services? We might do some juggling there depending on what the consultant comes back and tells us. And who knows, we might even, there are certain properties that maybe are not being used that we might say, well, we want to use, and certain properties that we're using that we might say we don't want to use, and we're just not sure of that. But the intent is, and we wanted to make sure that this is a very transparent and basically open process, and also that it was really being guided by the board. And so the superintendent did the legwork in our meeting last week. We asked the board, do you want to have the consultants come in and interview directly with the board? The board said no, let's just leave it to the subcommittee. So the superintendent is going to get us connected with the consultants very shortly. We should be making a decision and getting the ball rolling. Thank you.
I'd like to back up add one more piece to that. In December, the board actually came together as a team, and they looked at some of their educational priorities along with their regular goals that they've given to us here as a district. And some of the goals that we have, of course, is academic performance for all of our students, safety, and then making sure that we are financially stable. Those are probably the 3 priority elements that we have sitting out there. But then there were sub-goals that came with that. And those 3 sub-goals included being able to attract and retain high-quality staff, number 1. Number 2 was to try to find a way to be able to bring in a health benefit program to all employees. We currently don't have that for all employees right now, and it's something that we really desire in order to be able to help and attract and retain folks to stay. And the third thing that we're looking at potentially is workforce housing, because we know it's expensive to live up here in this area, and we want to make sure that the people that are working for us are able to live here in the community so they're not spending hours commuting. Instead, they're spending time investing in the community here. So those are some other elements of what we will be looking at within the study to see how those things will fit together for us to be able to offer those 3 sub-goals moving forward.
And not trying to tag team here, but just to add one further thing. I think that it took us some time to establish get consensus from the board around what we wanted to do and to lay that groundwork, and I think we're at that point. And so I think that we're now trying to move quickly, and so we're not looking at some year-long study or anything like that. We want to have an analysis and come back and then make some decisions.
Mayor Haney, you have a question?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea to look at your entire portfolio rather than look at it piecemeal, so I certainly applaud you for that. As you look at your portfolio, will you be having simultaneous conversations with the city of Newark regarding possible land use decisions that can be made relative to those properties at some point? When would that conversation begin?
I think until we really know like what the assets look like and kind of like where the board's direction is, at that point, I think we need to come back and we need to look at the zonings and how zonings have an impact. That's obviously a piece we'd want to come back and talk with the city with. But I don't know that I have those answers right now until we actually have a chance to look at the entire portfolio.
And we do share some properties, for example, the McGregor Fields. I think we share those. They're school board properties, but I know the city utilizes those. So I'm hopeful that at some point we can have those conversations as you look at your various assets, whether or not this would be a property that at some point might be better utilized by the city or somehow transferred to the city in conjunction with some other opportunity. So maybe have that as part of the conversation as well. When would you anticipate that the presentation will be made back to the school board once you've selected the committees and once they begin their work? When will we hear a little bit more about where the school district is going relative to some of these assets?
I mean, I think that we have to engage the consultant first, select the consultant, and they're gonna tell us their process. Mm-hmm. But I think that what we would anticipate, because believe it or not, we did something similar in 2018 or 2019, and we hired Dutra. And I believe it took them only about 3 or 4 months to do this analysis. So we would have to talk to the consultant, but I think the intent would be that they're going to essentially give us the blueprint, right? I mean, they're going to tell us, okay, here's the properties, and here's what they're being used for. But I think as superintendent was indicating, and I think what you're alluding to, Mayor, is that the next step is to say, okay, here's what it looks like now, but what potentially could it look like in the future? And I think that needs to be informed by stakeholder input, including input from the city.
And I know we only meet periodically, but may I suggest, Mr. Chair, that we kind of keep this item on the agenda just to get periodic updates? Thank you.
Yeah, I just also want to commend the kind of holistic approach. I think that's going to yield the best possible results, looking at kind of citywide and matching uses to kind of facilities and properties. I think that's the best way to go. So it seems like you're off on the right foot, and really excited to see what direction it takes. There are any other comments? Then we'll move on to new business, the Alameda County Safe Routes to Schools presentation.
I could just take a moment to be able to introduce our guests that are here with us this evening. They're not just really guests, they're actually partners with all of us throughout the year. And so we're excited to have Denise Turner, who will be doing a presentation on the various programs that are available here, that are happening right here in Newark, that we've done this past year, and then also some future programming that's coming up for the future. So excited to have them here. Welcome. We're sorry for the delay, but we appreciate you being here this evening, and we're so excited to have you.
Oh, thank you so much, and we appreciate the invitation to present, and we really appreciate your time in receiving this presentation. We are the Alameda County Safe Routes to Schools program, which is a program of the Alameda County Transportation Commission. The Alameda County Transportation Commission is a joint powers authority governed by a 22-member commission. We have the great honor of having your mayor, Mayor Hannon, as a seated member. So we're happy to present here today. Safe Routes presentations are usually like a celebration. That might be kind of like a happy moment for you guys on your agenda today. We'll get into the next slide. which presents Who's With Us today, which is me, Denise Turner. I am the program administrator for the Safe Routes to School program on behalf of the commission. And we have Adrian. I'll allow you to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Adrian Cardenas, and I'm a site coordinator supporting the Newark district.
We have Michelle on our screen here. She is our high school programs coordinator, and we also have our always supportive Stephanie Jim, who is a site coordinator lead in the back. I think me and Stephanie would be able to help with any open-ended questions that we have later on in the presentation. Anything that's like nuance that we want to like flesh out a little more, we can get into at the end. Okay, take it away, Adrian.
Thank you. Hi, so I'm just gonna leave you a little bit of insight about the school participation that Newark has in our program. In Newark School, 8 of 10 eligible schools in Newark are signed up for the Safe Route to School program. 6 elementary schools, 1 middle school, and 1 high school. The schools not signed up for the program are Crossroads High, Alternative, and Bridgepoint High. Last year, Coyote Hills and Newark Middle were on our priority school list, and these schools were offered extra support to participate in the program. This year, one of our big events is the International Walk and Roll to School Day, and this is an event that we encourage schools and communities to walk or enroll to schools. To many benefits that comes with walking, but also to alleviate congestion in front of schools, but also always with safety in mind. Schools that participated this year were Coyote Hills Elementary, Birch Grove Primary, Birch Grove Intermediate, Lincoln Elementary, and John F. Kennedy Elementary. And some of the schools that currently are participating in our program here in Newark, and some of the activities, we have been able to provide to Newark this year has been the bike mobile. They'll come to what it is later in a second. We have done 3 events of those so far this school year: 1 pedestrian rodeo and 2 walk and roll concerts. Last school year, to make it in comparison to last year's, last school year we had 5 bike mobile activities, 2 pedestrian rodeos, and 2 walk and roll concerts. Some of the upcoming program opportunities that we have right now, it's the Golden Sneaker Contest, we currently are working on in our program. And during this event, Alameda County students, classrooms, and schools will participate to see who can walk, roll, carpool, and use public transit the most. It's a very friendly competition amongst classrooms, and the kids, particularly middle school and elementary school, really love it. Reboot Your Commute, that is another one that we mostly tailored to high school, and that happens during February and March. And Reboot Your Commute is a countywide event that encourages high school students across Alameda County to walk, bicycle, carpool, or take transit to school through peer-to-peer mentorship. And to close one of our later dates, and one of my personal favorites, Bike to School Day, that's celebrated in May 14. And in this event, we encourage communities and staff and students, obviously, to bike and roll to school to make it equitable. And in this event, registered schools receive free resources and materials to help encourage and celebrate safe biking and rolling. Some of the services, introducing ways, some of the ways that we introduce ways to sustain walking and rolling at schools are our ongoing walk and roll. That is a design or a day the schools can choose on their own to promote walking and rolling to all the community, and also walking school buses and bike trains. Services currently available to newer schools are the bike mobile, walk and roll concerts, bike and pedestrian rodeos, pedestrians workshops, drive your bike, and travel training, train the trainer. I'll go into it in a second. Bike rodeos are fun, training courses that teach elementary school students how to ride on the road using a simulated city street course. This is in a car-free environment. Usually happens in the in the yard of the schools. And with this activity, students learn how to properly start and stop their bikes, hand signal, fit a helmet, ride a straight line, and ride safely and predictable. We also have pedestrian rodeos. This is an interactive presentations where students learn how to make their way through real light traffic, and also the students learn how to practice how to read traffic signs and signals, cross the street safely, recognize and avoid hazards, and know the laws governing pedestrians. I wish I had had that growing up myself, actually. So I'm very happy that we were able to provide this to students. Pedestrian safety workshops is another activity we also bring to schools. And this is like an assembly-style presentations where the entire student body can participate at once. And the students learn safe, lawfully pedestrian behavior on a simulated city street course. Imagine like a real life scenarios where there's like a crossing walk, or there is like a car coming in. To kids learn how to navigate those situations on their own. Instructor review traffic signs and signals, pedestrian safety practices, potential dangers while on the road. And this allows a school entire student body to participate in the workshop in one school day. The bike mobile is one of the presentations that we have been able to bring here to Newark the most. It's like a great team of bike mechanics that they come to their schools, and they fix like the students' bikes and also like the teachers' bikes sometimes. And they also teach students on how to perform at home maintenance, like a flat tire, like a little quick tune-up. And like it's very, very meaningful to see like how that little bit of sometimes a flat tire changes like so much how a kid can actually go to school. So that's been one of our most popular events. The walk and roll concert that also we've been able to bring here to Newark is an activity created by classroom teachers, and also they use music as a way to promote safety. They use hip hop songs about crossing intersections, helmet safety, carpooling, and some other transportation topics. Another one that is just tailored for middle school and high school is Drive Your Bike. And this prepares students to bike safely to school and around their neighborhoods. Bicycles and helmets are provided for this activity, and these programs are held during PE classes. I think one of the last ones is like a travel training curriculum. This is also tailored for middle schools and high school. And with this, we train the teachers like to confidently deliver a curriculum that empowers the students to navigate their communities and the world with confidence, care, and responsibility. These are flexible and ready to use models designed for around 45-minute sessions. They also bring like cross-curricular integration. It's perfect for a PE class, for social science, advisory, humanities, or sometimes like in a rainy day. This is like a great opportunity for the teachers to have an activity that it goes a long ways. And kids, particularly in middle school and high school, they get very, they take a lot from it. It's also is aligned with the California state standards. Learning for relevance and rigor. It's also a student center. It's an interactive, it's very hands-on, and it's very like in a way to empower the students about how to learn their own experience so we can spark engagement and connection. Thank you very much.
So if you guys do have time for questions, comments, conversation, we'd be happy to engage in that.
Member Hill?
Thank you. So great presentation. One question. So these days, now we have this whole new phenomenon of electric bikes and scooters. And so how does that sort of factor into your program?
So the place where you'll see our electric bikes and scooters as an infrastructure in our programming is the last slide you saw called travel training. That's geared toward middle school and high school. With the changes in trends with bikes, e-bikes, we invested in an outside consultant firm called Be the Change. They're a local Oakland-based firm that does curriculum redesign and development. We have a whole new suite module for curriculum, and not only are we producing that for our students directly from our site coordinators, coordinators. We also have another layer of teacher train the trainer, which gives the whole suite of our whole program element and includes that updated e-bike and e-scooter curriculum. I would love for you to see it if we had time. It's really nice. Great question.
I wanted to add very quickly to the Awina for the e-bike class. I've been we have programmed particular to high schools, and part of our program we also have translation services that we've been able to provide assistance for newcomers that they're also very interested in taking these classes too. So it's been like a very, very meaningful to try to learn about safely, particularly for e-bike and sometimes like scooters that it's not really our to go, but definitely like the e-bike part of it for sure.
Mm-hmm. Great point.
Mayor?
Yes, thank you. On the second slide, you had indicated that Coyote Hills, and I didn't catch the other school, were provided some additional, Newark Middle were provided some additional support. What did that look like?
So that is our previous access program, which was a funding we got from the state ATP program. It allowed us to infuse intervention level supports to schools that were under-resourced. So bringing in schools like those two allowed us to fund our site coordinators to almost be like a staff member on site. And you will see that change each year. So one thing you see is who gets that influx of additional reinforcement. That changes each year because what we hope is that what we do with infrastructure and support systems surrounding the school allows them to be general program operators. And our data actually shows success with that. Another thing similar to that is where you'll see like, oh, they only had 3 bike mobiles. Let's get that number up. You know, you would naturally think that. Well, we use geographic equity as well. So you'll see it kind of bounce around from a school, a classroom, so that we touch as many schools as we can.
I've had the opportunity to participate in the walk and bike to school days at our schools, as a number of my colleagues have, and they really are successful. You see a lot of kids with their, folks or their grandparents walking or riding to school. So I would certainly encourage us to maybe look at maybe having more of those events throughout the year. Mr. Benoon, just a quick question. I think most of our grammar schools and middle school probably have crossing guards at the various locations before and after school. Would I be correct in assuming that?
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay. Have we identified, either the city or the school district, have we identified any specific areas of concern where we find that any one of these schools are not providing the safest route possible for the students, whether it be in road markings or things of that nature? Have we identified any things where we need to be focused on either from a school or a city perspective to make it even safer for our kids? Or have you seen or heard? Yes.
May I jump in?
Sure, you may.
So one thing we didn't include in these slides, we cut them down so bad because we needed to fit in the 10 minutes, is our engineering technical arm of the program. We provide school safety assessments. You'll find that 4 of your Newark schools have them in place. They outline everything up to code. They're reviewed by planners within your city alongside planners within our program. And they give you exactly what has been spotlighted. That's another one that gives geographic equity. So you'll see where we bounce to you guys to get a couple more schools done each year. Right now we're at 4. The most recent one was John F. Kennedy Elementary.
And then those that are not, that still maybe have some areas of improvement that are necessary, that's information clearly that's available to the city to look at. And it sounds like you're working with the city and the school district to work on that. Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you.
All right, I do have a couple questions there. I do want to thank you for the presentation. It was terrific. So we have a couple of our schools are located at, maybe tougher locations to bike or walk there.
Yes.
Maybe we've got a couple schools that are on more major streets. We've got a couple schools that are kind of adjacent to an intersection where there's, an unprotected left turn, so that can kind of be chaotic on a school morning. So I'm thinking when you are doing your bicycle and pedestrian recognition, your hazard recognitions, when you're talking about some of like particular dangerous intersections, or kind of what features, as a city should we be looking at, like prioritizing like, hey, let's get this out of the way first, around our
That's a
school
wonderful
sites?
question. So the program has a high investment in our program evaluation arm that's led by the planning firm, Alta Planning and Design. We have tons of raw data, and we also have committed funds for them to assist you. Oftentimes, cities use it when they're applying for a grant, but you will see where we have overlays of high injury networks, collision crash data. It's hard for us to put that more public because of the sensitivities around it, but when we work in collaboration, we have it for you.
All right, well, to the extent possible, when we do our active transportation plan update, let's put that front and center information to the best that we're able. And then as we're thinking about prioritization, kind of specifically looking at those intersections closest to schools is something that I'd like to see. But there's whatever data that we can show specific to, how students are getting to schools when we're doing that plan, and what kind of recommended features council can review. I know we're still a couple months away from that plan coming to council, but just as we're working on that, I would like a specific focus on those intersections around schools.
Quick comment if I may.
Yeah.
And I think, Mr. Benoon, I think we've seen some of those improvements over the last couple of years. For example, as you come down Thornton Avenue, you want to hang a right on Spruce heading towards, right there at Schilling. We've closed off one of the lanes and made it a bike only. And so we basically, and made it actually safer for the students because you can't have cars pulling in and making that right-hand turn against the red light, which is nice. So I think we've seen some of those improvements. And as Councilmember Jorgen's mentioned, I'm sure there's some other opportunities for us to look at as well. So.
Right, it would be things like, if we have a chance to improve the intersection at, say, Lafayette and Newark Boulevard as students are getting to the middle school, or, making protected bike lanes on Cedar Boulevard getting to the high school, like thinking about how we can prioritize some of those improvements, looking at data to make sure that our active transportation plan is making sure that active transportation is safe.
I did have one more comment,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You mentioned the e-bikes. I am concerned about the e-bikes. I don't imagine the state law has imposed a speed limit on e-bikes other than the posted speed limit for vehicle traffic, because I see e-bikes, driving down the road at a very, very high pace. And I not only worry about the kids riding those e-bikes, but I worry about anybody that might be in their proximity. Is there anything being done to try to minimize or limit the speed limit on some of these e-bikes?
So what we do is we work in collaboration with enforcement. I have a buddy sitting back there nodding his head. So what we do is try to educate not only the child, but the parent as the transportation decision maker for the family, and give them information. One thing that's always missed is what helmet is appropriate for what speed bike and so forth. So we try to take some of the confusion out of it for communities, and then we just partner in collaboration with our enforcement partners.
Yeah, the whole notion of an e-bike was really to, make it simpler, certainly for the rider of the bike, not to have to exert so much energy in riding the bike, but I would certainly not discourage maybe speed limits be placed on e-bikes. Because, I've seen them traveling down the road
Very
at
fast.
really high speed. And I worry about them, and I worry about pedestrians that are maybe walking that don't see the e-bike because they don't hear it, and they may not see it. So just something for consideration.
Yes,
Thank you,
yes.
Mr. Chair.
Member Jones?
I just had a question regarding you said you did the monitoring or looking at the different campuses and seeing what needs to happen. Do you monitor that as well as the school to see if the plan has been put into fruition, or is it left up to just the city?
So we had one mini grant program that provided opportunities. Your city also took advantage of that opportunity. It was about 2 program years ago. It was actually like, when they had that extra funding to support quick builds and so forth around COVID. That was just a unique spike. And you guys did take advantage of that. So some of your infrastructure was improved by that. We don't otherwise get into infrastructure. Our program funding, especially at the federal level, is non-infrastructure. But what we do is in collaboration with your city planners, we'll check in, do a tracking sheet to see which improvements have been implemented to date. And sometimes it's like pulling teeth depending on how busy they are, but we do consistently revisit. One thing that I missed is our namesake, which is Safe Routes to Schools. We offer customized route maps as well to support families.
Yeah, Member Hub?
And just to build on the mayor's comments and maybe use you as a voice to send it to the powers that be. So when I was in college, I got my first motorcycle. And fortunately, at that point, there were laws in place that if you wanted to get a motorcycle, you had to take a motorcycle safety training course. And it went over, I don't know, it was like a couple months, I think. And there was both classroom instruction and then actual practice. And one of the things that, and I can tell you that course has saved my life multiple times. And one of the takeaways that I learned from that, even though it's many years since I took it, is that if you fall off your bike or your motorcycle, even at a low speed of 5 miles an hour, and you hit your head, it's you're going to have brain injury. And you had talked about the fact that you're giving some advice about different types of helmets for different types of vehicles. And certainly I think that would be helpful. And as the mayor is indicating, I mean, I see people flying down on these vehicles wearing just a bicycle helmet, and that is not sufficient to actually save them. And but I think that not only do we need better regulations around that, but I think that really people who are, if they're going to get these vehicles, they need to go through a training course. So to the degree that you can, send that up the chain of command, it would be appreciated. Thank you.
I sure will.
All right. And just a couple more questions from me. So that customized routes to families I offer, how do families take advantage of that?
The customized route maps?
Yeah.
So when we produce it for a school, we provide the printing of it. We also produce it in several different languages that are specific to that school community, and they can also receive a link to it.
So you send to the school, and then the school will distribute to families. Terrific.
Yep.
Maybe that's something that if the schools have it, they could share with the city, and then we can also have somewhere
We
for
could send you a
families.
file.
That would be perfect. And then my last question is on the kind of walk and roll to school.
Yeah.
Is there a good model of cities helping with that? And, what should, as a city, we be trying to do to help encourage that?
Oh, man. So if you saw the slides where we had folks posed up with like mascots and officers and so forth, it's unique from each city. It's unique from each school. But things that have helped us is schools might do a donation separate from us because we can't engage in donations to get healthy snacks for that morning. Some of their community groups might help to volunteer and lead a parade. Definitely our officers help to escort routes as students come in like a parade, and that just drives up the interest and enthusiasm. Anything that you think of that's unique to you guys may have a certain t-shirt at this school that everyone wears that day. Those things really help a lot. Yep.
Thank you. It was a great presentation. Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll look to the public if there's any member of the public that would like to speak on this item. Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. That's the presentation on graduation rates and college and career readiness data. Superintendent.
Okay, thank you so much. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council, and City leadership. I want to thank you for this opportunity to share an update on Newark Memorial High School's graduation and college and career readiness progress. Tonight, I'll walk you through a 6-year look at our data from 2020 through 2025. It was actually going to be a 5-year, but we just received our grad rates from last year, so I was able to incorporate it together, including where we're experiencing disruption during the pandemic, how we recovered, and where we stand today. So let me begin with a brief overview of what I'll cover tonight. Tonight, I'll walk through graduation trends from 2020 to 2025, followed by our college and career indicator results, and conclude with key observations and next steps. So let's begin with our graduation outcomes from 2020 to 2025. This table shows 6 years of graduation data, including total seniors, graduates, and fifth-year students. As expected, we saw a modest dip during the COVID years, 2021 through 2023, when graduation rates ranged between 89% to 91%. These years reflect the statewide academic and social emotional disruption students experienced. In response, Newark Unified strengthened credit recovery systems, expanded targeted academic supports, increased family outreach, and focused on student engagement. By 2024, graduation rates returned to 93.2%, nearly matching our pre-pandemic level. In 2025, we surpassed that, reaching a 93.9%, the highest rate in this 6-year period. Across the entire time frame, our average graduation rate is approximately 91.6%, consistently above the California state average of about 87%. The key takeaway is consistent. Our graduation rates have remained strong. Have remained strong and stable, and today they are higher than before the pandemic. To visualize the trend more clearly, here's the same data represented graphically. Okay. Okay, take a look at that for a second. This visual confirms what we just reviewed, a temporary dip during the pandemic years, followed by sustained recovery. By 2024, graduation returned to 93.2%. In 2025, it reached 93.9%, the highest in a 6-year cycle. Graduation is one important measure. The next question is, are students graduating prepared? Okay, sorry about that. I'm not very good at technology, as you can see. Okay, the College and Career Indicator, or CCI, that's the acronym that the state utilizes, measures how well students are prepared for life after high school, whether that path leads to college, career, or both. Unlike graduation rates, which tells us whether students completed high school, CCI tells us how ready they are for what comes next. It looks beyond coursework alone and measures meaningful experiences, including A through G completion, career technical education pathways, AP exam performance, dual enrollment, and work-based learning opportunities. Together, these indicators provide a more complete picture of student readiness, not just earning a diploma, but gaining the skills, credentials, and experiences that open real opportunities after graduation. Now let's look at how our students have performed on this indicator over time. Okay, take a few minutes to kind of look at this. So this chart shows the percentage of students who are fully prepared, approaching prepared, or not prepared on the College and Career Indicator. In 2020, 40% of our students were fully prepared. By 2023, that increased to 43.5%. In 2024, it rose again to 46.6%. And in 2025, it reached 52.3%. That's the highest level in a 6-year cycle. For the first time in this trend, a majority of students are fully prepared. To understand how readiness aligns with graduation trends, this next chart brings both measures together.
Can you go back to the last chart?
I sure can.
I just want to understand the gold
Okay.
and the gray. Could you just clarify what those mean again?
So you will see that, I didn't include that, I just realized. So the gray is
Approaching.
not prepared, and then approaching prepared is the yellow, and then fully prepared is the top. Okay. Sorry, I did not include that.
So when, I'm sorry to interrupt, but when somebody's not fully prepared, what does that mean? They haven't completed, for example, all the A through G requirements, or what does that mean?
It's a culmination of all the indicators for college and career readiness, which includes A through G, AP, dual enrollment. So they kind of get a point basically, and then there's a formula where they meet that criteria, that requirement.
And these would be seniors only, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, again, I apologize for these questions.
That's okay.
So the 2025, for example, 32.2% of the seniors that are going to be graduating are not fully prepared. Is that an assessment that's done, for example, at the beginning of the year, and then they become fully prepared by the graduation date?
Can I jump in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is an area that I think I spent a lot of my time in my career working on as a director of college and career readiness. And it's kind of changed a little bit over time. So most recently, the formula changed again by the state. Usually it looks at multiple factors. Are kids efficient in more than one, right? So they may be very efficient in one, like they might be A through G ready and moving on. But they also need to have another indicator as well that they're just as strong in to be able to make the rate there. So it doesn't mean that they're not prepared. It just means that for the college and career indicator, it looks at multiple measurements in addition to the one that's already gotten in there. So,
Thank you.
And then the high school graduation is based on the requirements they completed.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Thank you.
you're welcome. And it can be confusing, especially when you start looking at it, and the data can really change very quickly because it's not necessarily, it's compared to that year's data, not necessarily, because you got a different set of high school kids, right, that you're using that data on, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next chart that brings both measures together, graduation rate and college and career readiness. So I'll give you a chance to look at that. So this chart brings graduation rates and college career readiness together. You can see the temporary dip during the pandemic years, followed by the steady recovery in both measures. Graduation rebounded to 93.2% in 2024 and increased again to 93.9% in 2025, which I mentioned in my earlier slides, the highest rate again in the 6-year cycle. At the same time, fully prepared levels increased from 39.9% in 2020 to 52.3% in 2025. The important takeaway in this alignment is students are not only graduating at high rates, but an increased number are graduating prepared. Now I'd like to look more closely at the combined prepared and approaching categories. Okay to move on to the next? Okay. Okay. So this chart focuses on students who either fully prepared or approaching prepared. In 2020, 57.2% of students met one of those readiness benchmarks. After 2021 waiver year, that was a waiver year that we had, readiness levels increased steadily. By 2024, the combined rate rose from 69.2%, a 12% point increase from our 2020 baseline. And then in 2025, 67.8% of students are either prepared or approaching prepared, with 52.3% fully meeting the highest readiness benchmark. While the combined rate adjusted slightly this year, the important shift is that more students moved into the fully prepared category. That indicates stronger overall readiness outcomes. Taken together, these trends point to several key observations. Going to the next slide. Overall, college and career readiness at Newark Memorial continues to strengthen. Fully prepared students have increased by more than 12 percentage points from 2020, and we have now surpassed pre-pandemic readiness levels. While 2021 did not include the formal CCI reporting due to the statewide waiver, the growth since then has been steady and consistent. And then in 2025, graduation reached 93.9, and more than half of the students met the state's highest readiness benchmark. So the overall trajectory is upward. Students are graduating at stronger rates, and an increasing number are graduating prepared. With that context, I'd like to briefly highlight both of our strengths and areas of continuous focus. Let me move on. Okay. So if you look at our strengths, they're clear. Graduation rates are at their highest point in the 6-year trend, and more than half of our students now meet the state's highest college and career readiness benchmark. Participation in AP classes, CTE, dual enrollment continues to expand, strengthening the alignment to post-secondary and workforce pathways. Strengthening math achievement will expand access to STEM and technical pathways. We're expanding CTE and dual enrollment partnerships, particularly with industry and community colleges, deepen our workforce alignment. We're going to be working on closing the readiness gaps, which remains essential to ensure equitable access to high wage opportunities for our students. And improving post-high school tracking will allow us to better measure long-term impact. And in short, we are building on strong outcomes while remaining focused on continuous improvement. And building on those opportunities, here are the concrete steps we are taking to move forward. So as we look ahead, our focus is on sustaining momentum and expanding access. We are increasing our A through G completion so more students graduate eligible for 4-year universities. We are strengthening our full CTE pathway completion so students graduate with meaningful skills and industry-recognized credentials. We're expanding dual enrollment and work-based learning to accelerate college credit and workforce exposure while students are still in high school. We continue to use real-time data cycles to target support and close readiness goals or gaps. And at the same time, we are strengthening student interventions, including tutoring and mentoring to ensure every student has access to rigorous coursework. And we are investing in teacher development to ensure instruction remains aligned to college and workforce expectation. Our focus is sustained growth, expanded opportunity, and measurable outcomes. And finally, I want to briefly address why this work matters for Newark as a community. Education is one of the most important long-term investments this community can make. When students graduate prepared, not just with a diploma, but with meaningful college and career readiness, they contribute directly to Newark's workforce, local economy, and civic life. Strong schools support stable neighborhoods, attract families, and expand opportunity. Using data to guide our work ensures accountability and responsible stewardship of public resources. The future workforce and leadership of Newark are in our classrooms today. We appreciate your continued partnership as we work to ensure every Newark student graduates prepared for their next step.
I could just tag in for a moment. I think there was an important word at the very beginning. It was college and career. For many years, it was college or career. So either you went and you got a vocational certificate, or you were prepared to be able to go into college. Now they're saying both are equally important. One of the things that was happening is students were going into college but didn't really know what it was they wanted to take or where that was going. They found themselves back at home on their parents' couch, right? And that's not a good thing. So the idea is to be able to introduce students to more opportunities in the workforce. And that really is one of the elements of what college and career brings together. Member Hill, is very involved with career and technical education. He works on pathways all the time for their students. One of the things that we want our students to know that when you go into a pathway, you're almost making a 2-year commitment in order to be able to complete that pathway and to be able to hit that indicator on the other side. So that's one of the elements. In addition to that, you really want to be able to bring in more dual enrollment. We're working very closely with Ohlone College on some additional alignments for more opportunities for students. So not only do they get credit at the high school, but they're also getting credit at the college level. And then hopefully to be able to design a future program that what students can take both courses and hopefully leave with enough units to be able to actually have their AA. That's one of the trends that we're seeing out there across many high schools. And we want to make sure that we bring that here to Newark. So just some areas that we're really working on, trying to concentrate on, to be able to bring that college and career alignment. It's not an or, it's an and.
All right, Member Jones?
Sorry, I'm mic challenged. Thank you. This was really fabulous. I want to say that I am really encouraged by what we are doing in terms of college and career, because when I think about my own two kiddos, that was not a focus when they were at the high school. So I am very glad to see that it is now. And they both paid for the fact that we weren't really focused on that at the time. But here's my question is, do we have an idea of where we're going for 2026? Like, do you see the same trend continuing in what we're seeing going on at the campus now with the classes that kids are taking? And
I would say yes, we are. I feel like we're moving up. You have an admin team and you have a staff that I think work well together compared to 4 years ago. They trust the principal, the staff do, and now we have things in place where we're looking at courses that we're offering to have open access to students. Our counselors are monitoring our students to see if they're taking the right courses. Are they going to be college ready? Mm-hmm. Even with our LPAC and our CAS testing, we're giving prior talks. We're having conversations with kids before they move into taking those exams. We're hoping to offer more AP classes next year for students. So I don't know if I answered your question completely.
You did.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's a lot on the table that we're discussing, so.
Thank you.
Member Hope?
Thank you, Ms. Condi, for the great presentation. So I have three questions. So one is maybe more in your wheelhouse, and one maybe is maybe something that the superintendent might be able to speak to. And then the third is actually, I guess maybe a request from the city. So moving quickly, the question I wanted to ask you is, so we're paying attention to college and career readiness, which is great, right? And we're seeing that paying attention to that is producing results, right? Which is great. What would be helpful maybe for a future presentation is those variables that control that metric, to sort of understand which of those variables is causing the improvement, which one is maybe not doing as much as we want, and so therefore we can kind of focus more on that. So that would be great to hear more about. And I don't know if anecdotally you know the answer to that question.
Not offhand, but I look forward to presenting that at the next opportunity.
Okay, all right.
You've given me a goal and a challenge, and I accept.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So that was number one. Number two, one thing for people that are paying attention to it is, I mean, obviously our society is going through a dramatic transformation, and AI is driving this. And one thing that people are maybe not fully aware of, unless you have college kids or somehow are interacting with college kids, is the highest rate of unemployment right now is from new college graduates. And so the concept that we get them to college and then their futures are going to be set, that might be true 15 years ago, 20 years ago. It's not true anymore. And to kind of the superintendent's point, there needs to be some connection between what they're learning in college and how that translates into actual jobs. And a metric that I think would be great, and this is the question to the superintendent, and I don't even know if you know the answer to this, but in some ways, is there a way to start measuring and saying, okay, of the kids that are going directly from high school into a job, what percentage are getting a job? And like, what kind of job? Is it a good job, right? Or is it a job where they're struggling? And same thing with college too, because that can then help tailor our efforts even more in terms of what we're doing in high school.
All right, now you're talking my stuff here. I really love this. So this is a great conversation. So I think AI is just one of the other elements, right? There's going to be jobs that come off of that. Part of the challenge with workforce education is making sure that it is a high-end area. So it's letting go of some of the things that maybe people love to do, but they don't produce enough for you to be able to live up here in this area. And I'll give you an example. It's a beloved program. Culinary is beloved, but you have to work a lot of jobs to be able to pay your bills inside culinary. So you need to make sure that when you're introducing kids to pathways, that you're introducing them to ones that are viable, that actually have a career outcome at the end that's going to make it sustainable for them to live not only in California, but to live up here in the Bay Area. So that's really important. High-tech area. Many of the people that are in high-tech didn't even go to college. Many of them just have technical certifications and have done these stackable certifications. So that's another form of measurement that you can do, and the state actually has that. The other thing that you can be looking at is something called the college and career indicators. And those college and career indicators actually have a multiple-year plan that goes beyond high school, and you're able to actually track the data from the students as to where they are through what they're doing with Social Security. There's ways that you're actually able to gather that data and be able to have those data points so that you know what's happening. And so there's definitely ways that we can do that and be able to build those things together. It's been a little bit more difficult in Newark, and I'm going to tell you why. Many of the school districts throughout California have access to a lot more funding than we do. They have access to both supplemental and concentration dollars. We have very minimal of those dollars, which makes it more difficult. It means we have to take our regular base funding and try to spread that out, where the other districts have a flood of access to those additional dollars. That does make it more difficult for us to be able to make sure that we can create the additional services that go along with that. So that service alignment, they have a lot more supports in some other districts than what you actually have access for your kids. What's that all about? That's about us talking with legislators and telling legislators we want to make sure that it's an even playing field. The kids in Newark need to have the same kinds of services and the same kinds of access. And the data that you just saw up there is a real good indicator that our kids don't have enough access with additional adults helping them either through the counseling initiatives or to be able to have information around what's being offered at Ohlone, what's being offered at university, what's being offered through just technical certifications that are stackable. There's a lot of work being done with pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship. Those are models that we haven't stepped into yet, but those are models that we should be stepping into, and you can be tracked through data right at the state level. And so those are important conversations to have, but I think looking at and understanding this data is probably the first starting point in that, to be able to have those conversations. And I agree, I think we need to make sure that we're putting money and investing money in our programming for kids, especially around electives, that are going to pay off in dividends for them to be able to use for careers that aren't even here today.
Thank you. And then just the last request from the city, and it's obviously a very, big, I guess, task or a big initiative. But I think that we all recognize, and before the meeting started, Mayor Hannon had come over and said, how are you enjoying using our city council chambers for your meetings? And I said, we're enjoying it a lot. and so, but I think that the point in this is that our futures are inextricably bound. And what we're able to do from a school district perspective is going to pay great dividends to our community, but also we need your help as well. And I don't have an idea for how this would work, but I think it would merit more conversation of how can we strengthen those bonds between the kids that we're sending out of high school and being able to somehow engage and participate and find jobs in our community, or are there certain training things that we can do in advance of that? I think that could be very powerful, and so just want to get that on your radar screen.
Mayor?
Yeah, I have a number of questions. As you understand, a lot of this information is new to me. When you talk about a community like Newark, the educational opportunities are critical for a successful community. We talk about quality residential properties, we talk about good jobs, but we certainly don't want to lose sight of the fact that a quality education in our community is certainly something that people that are looking to buy in our city are looking to send their kids to the best and finest schools, so that it all goes together. The graduation rates that you mentioned, does that include Bridgepoint? It does?
It does, because it's the whole.
Alternative education actually has a different measurement that it's actually done, but we do have data on Bridgepoint. It just has a different measurement that's used in the comprehensive high schools.
Can you go back to your slide on the CCI, the different points there that you were highlighting? It's the one that had the different bullet points that comprise that.
Okay, this one.
Yeah. So this is where I was struggling with that graph. So readiness would be somebody that has completed multiple in these areas, not just one, for example. Is that what I understood that to be? So it could be somebody that's done the AG completion and maybe an AP exam.
Yeah, they had to have multiple AP exams, but yes.
That would be somebody that's considered ready.
Yes, and they've also hit the AP exam at a certain level for to qualify. So it's not just taking the AP exam, it's actually making sure that they've actually hit the benchmark of where
Gotcha.
that needs to be.
And so I'm sorry.
Sorry, because I'm a little confused on that too. So let's give an example of me as a student, right? And I would have had all the A to G completion requirements. I would have passed, after my junior year, one AP test. I wouldn't have had any dual enrollment, any kind of career technical education, any work-based learning. How would a student like me have scored on something like this?
You may not have scored. You may not have hit the benchmark of where we need to be. You might have been either approaching, or maybe you've taken some of it, but maybe not all of it to be able to complete at least two of those areas of what they have. And there's a couple more too that aren't on there. There's seal of biliteracy. There's a couple other things that are also embedded in some of that that work-based learning.
There is.
There's multiple different things when you look at the indicators, and all those pieces kind of come together. What's really important is that we have a good, strong database that's actually, so our student information system that goes in, it's called CalPads. CalPads is what reads all this information, and we want to make sure that all those things are together. When you went to school, it's possible that we didn't have as much A through G as we do today. Almost every class over at Memorial now is A through G qualified, including the electives.
That was the case 15 years ago too, so.
Okay, good. That's good to hear. Because a lot of school districts 15 years ago were not fully A through G. So that's a good thing. And then the career technical education, again, it's a two-way passage, right? So you have to have, and 2 years can be done in a couple different ways. It could be a program. We're tied to our ROP. And ROP, if you're like in our nursing program that's over there, in a year's time, you could actually meet that pathway completion because you take both your your concentration and your oh my gosh, why am I drawing a blank? It's late. Mr. Hill, help me out with the two things.
The capstone class?
Yeah. So you had to have actually 2 years or a program that equals the 2-year timelines. If you're in dual enrollment, again, you would have to show that you've hit a certain achievement by grade level, which means that you have to have pretty much an A or a B in order to be able to hit your dual enrollment at the community college level to be able to hit that. And you had to have X number of classes to be able to fully meet that particular pathway. So you could be approaching, but you may not hit the fully prepared. It's kind of a little bit of a science, and part of it really is making sure that our counselors have an opportunity to be able to meet with the students, right, and talk with the students about here's where you're at, here's what you still need, and you can actually track it. There's measurements and there's tools that you can use to help track that information for your students to make sure that they're fully getting all that information.
I guess my question is maybe even more fundamental. I'm trying to understand the importance of these measurements. If I'm a 4.3 student at Newark Memorial, and I've done all my AG completions, but I don't do the CTE, I don't take AP exams for whatever reason, not dual enrolled work-based training, I would then be considered not ready based on your description.
Based on the states.
I'm not sure if I understand
mine,
why.
based on the states.
Can I
Sure,
speak
help me
to that?
understand the importance of this.
All right, so as a career technical education teacher, right, so there's lots of what the superintendent has referred to as pathways. So, for example, business is a pathway, engineering is a pathway, culinary arts is a pathway. And so say it again? Nursing. And so the idea is that you're getting some
Skill sets.
career ready type of skills in school.
Other than academic.
Other than purely academic. And what I will tell you is that increasingly, I mean, ChatGPT is changing the whole universe. Literally all the things that we have poured into from a traditional A to G, now you can go find the answer to that in 30 seconds using ChatGPT. But one thing that ChatGPT can't do, and that I'm teaching my students in my class how to do, some of these guys are great engineering whizzes and are great great writers, etc. But they cannot figure out how to take my box where I have my Chromebook, and there's a lever on it that they have to turn to open it so that they can get the Chromebook out. And that's because they're not learning kinesthetic skills. And so,
But they might be super smart.
right, so
Kinds of smarts.
yes. And
Some are academic, not all.
And so the idea is that we want you to get a 5 on the AP Calculus AP exam, but we also want you to actually have hands-on engineering understanding so that when you're down on the factory floor talking with a worker, that you actually know how something gets assembled. It's not just, you plugging stuff into AutoCAD. So that's really why both of them are important.
I get it. I want to talk just briefly, we hear about, those kids that are not ready to go off to college. They may have more proficiency in technical areas and whatever the case may be. They may not just be college ready, but I don't ever want to underscore the importance of a college education.
Nope, me neither.
Period. I mean, they've done study after study after study that talks about the economic benefit of those that graduate with a college degree. And there are those exceptions, those that work in the technical fields at whatever the company may be that have become billionaires, but those are not the examples that we want our kids to believe that they're going to be able to achieve. Just like we tell our kids, you may be a great basketball player in high school, but the chances of you making the pros are extremely remote. So I still want us to continue to emphasize the importance of a college education. And one thing, your statistics I didn't see here is I see 93.9% of the kids are ready for or graduating. Do we know what percentage of them are actually going on to either a 2-year or 4-year college?
I don't have that information.
I'd like to have that maybe broken down at our next meeting.
I don't know that we have that information.
Oh, you may not
So
have that?
trying to track that information is a little bit difficult right now at this time. There are some data points that are out there. We've not we've not gone down that with our students. So there is some data that can be collected by certain colleges, but not every college is actually listed inside that. So that data doesn't really come to us where we get that back and actually know that. We also don't know who's successful at the end of a 4-year unless we actually have someone who's out there making actual phone calls, quite frankly, to find out from kids what's happening there. So some of that's a little bit difficult to go off and get that information.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mayor, I could also reach out to our counseling staff at the high school to see, I know that they do a survey at the end of the year, but I don't know what kind of questions I don't remember what questions are on that survey. So it's possible where we can get some, yeah.
College board, so the college board, though, does have, and for those colleges that are signed up to be part of College Board, we're able to pull some of that data that comes with our students, and it comes to us annually, and the counselors do have that information. But I wouldn't say it's a perfect science by any means that it necessarily gets all of our kids and exactly what's happening. By the way, sometimes it takes kids a little bit longer to go back and go to college. Sometimes they don't go immediately. Sometimes they want to go figure some things out. Some take a gap year. So there's, they don't necessarily leave us and go right into college. Some take their time going through college. Some take, more than a 4-year path to be able to get it done. But I agree with you. I think college is an extremely important piece. I think what the college and career indicators trying to say is that kids need to have exposure to more opportunity instead of just being stuck with, okay, take the core academics, make sure that you pass the test, what else are you getting besides that particular piece of it? What else are you being introduced to? What else are you being exposed to? And they're really challenging school districts in our high schools in particular, but not just high schools. It's all the way down to elementary, and it kind of feeds itself up to be able to expose students to more opportunities that maybe they wouldn't have had at home, to be able to think about, those different kinds of careers that are out there.
And one last question, if I may, is that when we talk about graduation and readiness for graduation, I know you test 11th graders, I think, don't you, on math and English?
Correct.
Standardized tests. How do our kids compare? I mean, how do they do in those in that regard? I want to make sure that as they're graduating, that they can read and write, at a level that it would be certainly approachable, where they can then get hired if they decide not to go on to college, et cetera, et cetera.
So you had a presentation at the city council meeting from Ms. Allard recently,
did,
looking at
yes.
some of our data, right? And so we shared some of those data points with you and what that looks like. We still have lots of work to do, but we are moving in the right direction.
Great.
We're closing the gap, and I think you saw some of that in that presentation. I know our board has seen it. And then our early signs with looking at early assessments through our iReady exams are already showing really great results, including the most recent ones that we're looking forward to sharing with our board here in the very near future.
And Ms. Allard, her presentation, which I thought was excellent, and thank you again for bringing that to the council. Did that separate the 11th graders from the overall group? I can't recall if it separated them or not.
I believe that it did.
Did it? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Member Hill.
Just one additional commentary kind of related to your discussion, Mayor, about college. And one of the things, so I was a part of the generation that really had adopted the belief that everybody needs to go to college. And prior to that, we had different tracks, right? We had people that could go to trade school, et cetera. But what I think that we've seen since then is that, and one of the things I've learned as I've gone through training to be an educator is the concept of multiple intelligences. And when we look at the data and we see that 30%, and you look at it's fairly consistent. Those are the kids that don't necessarily fit into the standard college curriculum, and that doesn't mean that they're stupid. But one skill that you learn, or one intelligent, is kinesthetic skill, like how to actually put things together in a three-dimensional perspective, but oftentimes people that I've encountered who have this skill, you have them try to sit down and read War and Peace. I mean, forget about it, right? So I think that what we need to be able to do is to offer kind of multiple avenues. And I think, as you're saying, have some expectation to say, well, you're not going to just put War and Peace aside. We're not going to say that you don't have to learn how to read and write. But maybe your pathway is, maybe you're not going to go to a four-year college. Maybe you're not even going to go to a two-year college. Maybe you're going to go into a 1.5-year program to learn how to weld, and then after you leave that, you're going to be making $180,000. Or here in the Bay Area, I bet you that most people who know how to be a plumber are making more money than a lot of people that actually got even a graduate degree right now. So I think we just need to have multiple pathways to accommodate the different needs. And that's where I think we can really use the city's help, is how can we take these kids that maybe need some additional, maybe more hands-on, or really, where the coin drops, this is how I'm gonna, what I'm gonna do, what my future livelihood is gonna be, and give them exposure, get them excited, and then I think we're gonna see great results. So, and I don't think we're necessarily seeing anything different.
No, I don't disagree with anything you just said. I don't like when I hear out in the community, not just our community, but just any community, that college isn't that important. You don't need to go to college. Some kids, as you mentioned, are not ready to go to college. It's not the pathway that they need to be on. But I don't want at the same time then to devalue the importance of those that are going to college and are getting those degrees.
Every kid that leaves with that diploma, that very first chart that we looked at, that 93.9%, if you look at that, those students are all prepared to be able to leave here and go into some sort of college system, whether it's the Harvard classification or working through community college or through trade school. They are all prepared to be able to go into a college program, and it's met the core academic expectation of our Board of Education. So we already bring that piece to the game. The college and career indicators adds another layer of dimension to be able to help bring success in for students and make sure that they have additional assistance. In thinking about some of the things that were just said here about how can we use the city as a partner in some of this, I can tell you, we need mentors for our students. Our students need to have mentor time with an adult. I can't tell you how important it is to connect a student with an adult, not necessarily their parents, but an adult that kind of can sit there and say, no, like, why are you doing that? Like, you should do it like this, or, hey, have you ever thought about this? Or let me show you something, and let me show you what I do on my job. And to be able to have that shadowing that kind of comes with that, extremely important, very valuable. And I think in a community like Newark, honestly, it could be like the secret sauce that happens here.
And I've been out with our economic development team when we've done presentations at tech businesses and things of that nature, microbiology businesses, and we asked them, have you had the opportunity to connect with our Newark high school kids, because there's a lot of kids out there that see that as a pathway at some point, whether it be through an internship or a summer job or whatever the case may be. So I know that the economic development team is routinely reaching out to these organizations when we meet with them and try to make that connection. And maybe with your help, you're going to be the point person that we're going to want them to chat with as we complete that that partnership opportunity.
Member Jones.
I was just going to add that I think when Member Hill was talking about, the kid who needs the kinesthetic, the kid who needs to have the hands-on. When I went to college, first of all, I couldn't pass a standardized test to save my life when I was going through school. So if you're looking at 11th grade and saying, oh, here's the indicator, the kids that did really well, I wasn't that kid. I had to work really, really hard to get myself to move past the fact that I always felt like a failure when it came to that. But I was really good with my hands. So when I went to school, I had to find a college that was, I called it a hands-on college. I was very geared on being project-centered. So, and I don't consider myself, I should say, I do consider myself a very intelligent person, but it's not necessarily the book intelligence that some people look for, that the college, the kid who goes from high school to college and graduates and gets the good job. That wasn't me. That actually wasn't even my own kids, who did far better than I did in school. But they worked, they figured out what they wanted to do, they made money to understand. And I think there's so many students who need a job in order to go to college too. So there's that side of it of they can't just go on and go to school, but we need to be able to prepare them to, okay, here's a decent job that you can have so you can earn some money and go to school at the same time. And I think our jobs as adults in Newark and for our high school, graduates is to stick around, to keep encouraging them. You're working now, but don't forget how important college is. Because I am a firm believer. I was raised in a household, high school, college, job. And I did it. Wasn't easy, but that was the expectation. Life is different now than it was when I was in college in late 70s and early 80s. And we need to honor that, but also keep pushing the kids. Keep pushing them. You see them, they're 20, they've got 25, they've got a decent job, but they haven't gone to college. Have you thought about going back? Has what you've done in your workforce life at this point made you think about what you really want to do? So I think it's really important to get them ready in every aspect that we can, and to not forget to just keep encouraging them, because maybe they don't all go finish school. My daughter didn't finish getting her degree until she was 31. It wasn't that she couldn't do it. She worked a lot in between. She figured out what she wanted to do. It just took time. So I love this information. I love the fact that we're looking at at graduation rates and the CCI in a much deeper way, but we also have to acknowledge that every kid is different and every kid needs different things. And our community is very diverse when it comes to what our students need as they move through high school and beyond. And I think we have to remember that. So that was.
And then I do have a couple questions. Actually, on this slide on the kind of metrics that are going into the state broader metric. No, the slide we were just looking at.
Oh, the one, okay.
So on AP exams, I could be incorrect on this, but I think I remember from looking at the data that statewide there are more juniors taking AP tests than seniors.
We have sophomores as well.
Right. So I was just curious about that breakdown because it seems to me that if, we're trying to measure actual college readiness, we should be looking at, if we've got this big drop off of AP students, that might indicate something, troublesome. So I was just curious about the breakdown between sophomores, juniors, seniors, who's taking AP tests, and are we building students towards college readiness, or is there a drop off?
So with regard to AP exams, and I don't know if I can actually quote the exact number, but when I started at Newark Memorial in 2022, I ordered, I think it was 300 tests for AP exams, and last year we ordered 950. It was like almost 1,000. So to go back to your question, I feel like the students, our AP classes have increased over the last 4 years, and kids are doing well on the exam. I didn't include the actual details for each one. I realize I should have, but the performance that is required by the CCI is a 3 or higher.
So I guess my question is just, and this can be something you don't need to bring it back, but something I think would be helpful to look at is there a drop off? As we've grown the AP program so much, are students being kind of pushed into it? They're falling off the track because that's what the data is kind of showing statewide, where we are seeing less seniors taking tests than juniors, which would indicate that students were on an AP track and then they fall off.
I would say that's not happening at Newark Memorial.
All right, I would just say
Our AP program has just strengthened each year.
Because
from
it's a
year to year.
statewide trend, and I don't have the data in front of me. I think it would be good to look at, make sure that's.
Oh, and I attribute that to the teachers that are teaching those courses. So,
And then my other question is about dual enrollment. I guess kind of what does it look like now? We heard a little bit about what the vision is. Just kind of talk a little bit more about what the vision, what it can be for Newark students.
so we just had a meeting actually this morning or this afternoon. We're hoping to increase our dual enrollment options. It's been minimal at the beginning of the last 2 years. I would say since 2022. This last year, we were able to offer sociology, Chicano studies, Calc 3, that's taught at the college level. We're hoping to expand that even more and offering engineering classes and I can't remember the other one. Cybersecurity, maybe? I think it's cybersecurity.
Those classes are at the Ohlone campus, which the Newark campus or the Fremont campus?
They're at the Newark campus.
Okay.
So we also discussed today seeing if kids, so I did a new regulation with regard to students taking courses outside of Newark Unified. And so one of the questions I had for Ohlone, would it be possible for kids to take courses like the last 2 periods of the day while they're at Newark Memorial to just increase our dual enrollment opportunities for the students. So we're hoping to expand it.
All right, thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, just tied to that initiative around dual enrollment, Newark Unified School District, along with our neighboring school districts, is working very closely with Ohlone College. We actually have brought in an expert to help us bridge that element. Predominantly, we don't have as much dual enrollment right here in this area, and so one of the things we want to do is we want to be able to grow that challenge. So we're excited about that. The work that she's been able to do within the consortium has been really instrumental in being able to help us identify the courses that would be successful, and also that our own teachers can actually teach on behalf of Ohlone College as being a faculty person there over there for them as well. And then the nice thing is, if it is a dual enrollment class that's offered through Ohlone actually pays for that course for us, and so it's an add-on for the students for them to be able to have access. But the most important thing I think also is that we need to find ways to make sure that the student has tutoring available, some additional support systems. It's hard. It's hard to do a college course. It's hard to do a regular high school course. And then when you step into the college, the expectation just changes that much, right? So it can be kind of a shocking piece for the students sometimes to realize that college life is not super simple, but it also allows for them to have the interest and to be able to do some expansion.
Well, you have some phenomenal students, though, at the high school, ones that, and we've met a number of them here that are going off to, MIT and some of these other universities. So, it's our responsibility, and I know you're up for the challenge because I see it all the time, that, we want to make sure we provide an environment that continues to challenge our even, brightest kids, to make sure that they have those opportunities so that when they do apply to the MITs and these, Stanfords, that they have a real good opportunity on getting accepted into those universities. So thank you.
Anything
Oh,
else?
thank you so much.
Thank you for the presentation. If there's any member of the public that would like to speak on this item, now would be the time to do so. Seeing none, we'll move on to item D3, Newark Unified School District Superintendent Executive Recruitment.
Well, it's underway. I know that the board met this past Saturday to do their paper screening, and I know that they've got interviews set up for the 7th and 8th. And I think I will turn this over to my esteemed members to add anything else to that conversation.
Full steam ahead. So we engaged a search firm. They went out and they publicized the position. I think there were initially a total of like 40 or 50 responses.
Request for application.
Oh, request for application. Okay, you know better. So why
Okay, so there were, there was about 40 requests for application. 21 applications were turned in. They did the screening during that period of time. It dropped down, 2 dropped out. So we actually had 19 on our list, and we have decided to interview 7 of that 19, of which it will be a full 2-day process. And we hope to find someone, but we also, I think, are all aware that if we don't find the right person, we don't have to decide this time to pick somebody. So I'd say that's where we are.
But what I would add to what Member Jones has said is that we all of the 19 that we got resumes for, we all looked very carefully in advance. I think all the board members did their homework, and we had a very good discussion. And it went longer than what was initially planned. I don't think we were out of there until about 3.
But it was really productive.
But yeah, but I think that we really came to a good conclusion around the candidates that we were interested in, and I think that each of them has some unique things that they're offering, and so I'm hopeful. Obviously, you never know until you meet the person and you speak with them, but I think that we have a number of candidates that have
good
the qualifications to to be our next superintendent. But at the same time, right, we may decide on that day there's something not right, and so we reserve the right to take a step back if there's issues.
Yeah, I feel hopeful that the fact that we were able to find 7 that we all agreed on, that we would, entertain the interviews, and I think we really look forward to that, and all, are really coming at this with a motivation to find the right person for Newark, because we need to find the right person. So that's the last thing I would add.
Mayor.
Well, I applaud you for your effort, and I certainly wish you the best of luck. It's a critical position in the city of Newark. We've been through quite a number of different superintendents, even just during my short tenure on the council since 2014. And, I continue to, highlight the real value of an education here in Newark with the quality of the teachers that we have at our various schools. We have a school board that appears to be working effectively together, focusing on those things that are important to the community in terms of how are the kids doing, what is the data showing. relative to the scores, and are we moving in the right direction? So it seems like the board's focusing on all those right indicators, but we need a strong superintendent that's going to come in and be able to, be in the community for a while, and let's get the schools achieving at the highest rate possible, because that would be certainly something of real benefit to the community. So I applaud you for your efforts.
Yeah, Member Hill?
And just to add on, Mayor, so I think that the search that we're going through now is different than the search that we went through 2 years ago. And we really were facing a number of issues in our district on multiple levels. And we had brought in a very capable superintendent to come in and help us with that. But unfortunately, there was an issue that forced her ultimately to retire. And thankfully, Superintendent Vicar stepped in. And we've talked about the fact that she was wondering whether that was a career-limiting move. And so there were really major issues that we face, and we've been spending the past couple of years getting those worked through. And so I think that we're in a much better place at this point. And so the foundation has been laid, and that doesn't mean everything's perfect, but now we're really looking for somebody that can help us take it to the next level. But as you're pointing out, we want to have we want to have somebody here for at least the medium term and hopefully the long term. And so the candidates that we're looking at are people that can come in and grow with Newark. But just so you know, and this is a statistic that shocked me, California School Boards Association has done studies around this, and the average tenure of a superintendent across California is 2 years. And so there's some really dysfunctional things, in my opinion, that exist, within our structure that are maybe causing this. But we're really mindful at this point in identifying who's somebody. And so we're looking for somebody that is going to be local, is going to put down roots for the long term. And that's one of our key criteria.
All right, well, unless there's anything else, thank you for the update. Look forward to exciting news on that front coming up soon. So if there's any member of the public that would like to speak on this item, now would be the time to do so. Seeing none, we'll move on to item D4, role, objective, and purpose of the City of Newark NUSD Liaison Committee. City Manager, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, good evening, committee members. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, the Newark City Council held its annual workshop. It was facilitated by Ms. Jan Perkins, renowned and respected city administrator. It was a 3/4 of a day seminar. The morning session focused on good governance, council norms, proper protocol, roles, that sort of thing. And in the afternoon, we discussed strategic initiatives and the direction and vision of the city. Throughout that conversation, a couple of times, references were brought up in regards to collaborating with the City of Newark and the school district. And the facilitator did a diligent job in recognizing that we had limited amounts of time, and this was not the proper forum and venue to discuss an issue of that magnitude. So she deferred it to what we call the bike rack. And at the conclusion of the meeting, we talked about ways where we can have those types of discussions on collaboration between the city and the school district. And we felt that the proper venue would be here. And so we put this item here on the agenda, role, objective, and purpose of the City of Newark NUSD Liaison Committee, just to have the conversation about the direction of this committee, its objectives, its purposes, where are we going, and what is our plan with respect to this committee. So did that provide an appropriate amount of background and context? Is that what you were looking for?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And Mayor, I'll look to you first.
Great, thank you. I do think that the City of Newark NUSD Liaison Committee is, I'd like to still think it's important to the community. At minimum, it gives us both an opportunity to kind of understand our roles and responsibilities as council members and board members. what are some of the issues that we're focusing on that are of interest to the entire community? Because when people think of the school board and the city council, oftentimes they can't differentiate what's going on in the community. You're responsible for this, you're responsible for that. And as much as I would tell folks, I'm not responsible for what's going on with the school districts. I support our school board, I support our schools, I support our teachers. But if you're asking me to do this, I don't have the authority and the ability to do that. I can certainly talk to my colleagues on the board and bring that to their attention. But at the end of the day, we have a separate elected school board, and they are responsible for the successes at our schools. So at minimum, I think the discussion about our various roles periodically in terms of how we can help each other is important. But the notion that we, the city, are going to be able to change, for example, the direction that the school board is going into, or implement change to which the community may be interested in, we just simply don't have that authority to do that. I certainly will continue to apprise my colleagues on the board of those issues as they become known to me, but I want to be sensitive to our various roles. I also want to be sensitive to the roles of our staff, you know. This committee was dormant for a number of years prior to my becoming the mayor. And Mr. Benin, you may know better than I how long it was dormant. It was quite some time. Yeah, and I think at some point the various NUSD, City of Newark liaison committees that did get together at some point started to figure out what are we trying to accomplish? What are we trying to do at the end of the day that's really to the benefit of the entire community? And at the end of the day, if mutual exchange of ideas, mutual exchange of understanding as to what our various roles are and what we're trying to do to better our community. If that's at minimum what we're trying to accomplish, I think we can do that and can continue to do that. But I want to be sensitive to our staffs in terms of coming up with agenda items that are going to take away from their primary responsibility, which is to support the city, or their primary responsibility to support the school board. I certainly don't want to create a situation where we ask our staff or you ask your staff to do things that take away their responsibility from doing things that you've already identified or we've already identified as being critically important to our various boards. So from a standpoint of exchanging ideas, having conversations about our community from a citywide perspective and a school board perspective, I think that's important to continue to do, but I would make those initial comments.
So, and I'll kind of add on to that, because I agree with a lot of what you said. I think one starting point could be looking at other city school district liaison committees and other communities. One thing that is always a highlight is kind of upcoming events within each jurisdiction. And maybe that's something that we can add as a standing agenda item where it's like, okay, what are the city events coming up? What are the big school district events coming up? That way, we're not just sharing ideas, we're also in community supporting each other's events. So I think that may be one thing that we can bring forward. I'll also say, just kind of observationally in my couple of years on the committee, it seems like the city, whoever the city representatives have been bringing forward the majority of the agenda items, which I think tilts the conversation in one direction or another. And it, I think, would be helpful, if we can make sure on the agenda that there's the school board members, that those items are there as well. Because I think if the agenda items are being brought forward by the city, it does tilt that in one direction or another. And for me, maybe I'm not learning as much about what's going on in the school district and how we can be helpful, if those agenda items aren't there, if I just am not aware of it.
I think on this particular agenda, we did a pretty good job of half and halving it. So
I think that's, yes, I do think today's meeting is, I think, a great example of what we can do. And then we should, make sure that we're doing it, at each meeting.
I agree.
I do like Councilmember Jorgen's suggestion on upcoming events. I think that's critical. Sometimes I may find out about an event a day or two before the actual event, and I want to be out there to support the schools. I want to be out there to support our teachers. I want to be out there to support our school board. And but I oftentimes need more than a day or two to attend some of these events. Just to give an example, I was at the Young Authors over at the Lincoln School just this last week, and Certainly had a chance to attend the high school event last week. So I'm going to try to get out to more and more of these events because, again, as I mentioned in my other comments, people don't distinguish the mayor being responsible for just the city. They view the mayor being responsible for the community. And though I may not be able to speak to a lot of the issues that your folks are dealing with, I can certainly take that information and pass it on to my colleagues on the board or pass it on to my city manager, who would then pass it on to the superintendent. Just the level of communication between our various agencies is helpful to me to be able to know what's going on and be able to tell the story that we want to tell to our community moving forward. So I do like the idea of maybe highlighting on a monthly, and I think we're coming up with a joint calendar at some point, aren't we, Mr. Benoon, at some point, or am I mixing that up with something else?
That can be a good idea, but maybe it's something that we put on a future agenda.
So maybe as you work, Ms. Vaccaro, with our city manager, if there's events that are coming up that you think would be of interest for the council to attend, certainly share that with him, because we get a weekly report from the city manager that does include events that are going on in the city of Newark, and we certainly can share that with the school board as well. And so it's not just a one-way street. So the more we can share those opportunities, I think it just makes us certainly out there in the community, they see that we're working together, and I think that's important. And I do want to, just one other thing, if I may, council member, I thought the presentations tonight were outstanding, in all honesty. There's so many topics that we talked about tonight that I had no real understanding as to kind of the information behind the topic. And so it was really important for me to hear that, and the more knowledgeable I become as a mayor regarding what's going on in our schools, whether it be test scores, how decisions are being made, it's just important for me to be able to then communicate that to our residents. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And, the more that we can be at events and know about events, the more community members are going to come up and passionately tell us about something that they think should be going better. And,
both areas.
the reality is, we don't have a packed house tonight. And sometimes it can be tough for community members to come to one of our meetings. But making sure that we're out in the community and people can come to us, and bring forward their concerns, we can start to work on it. So, Superintendent?
Well, I got to tell you, you might be overwhelmed by the number of events that we have going on in the district. On any given day, there's multiple events happening every single day. So I think trying to hone in on that is just going to be something I kind of have to work on. I mean, we realize that with our schools, there's so many activities. I will do my best, but
Watch out what we ask for.
yeah, that's what.
Yeah. I was going to say, well, if you look
You
at
want us
the,
to send you invites, calendar invites for all of them?
oh yeah, we can just add you to the list. You'll be going, oh my Lord, what happened
it's
here?
a little overwhelming, quite frankly. So let me just kind of think about this a little bit. I know we don't have a one person that does this. It gets put on by many different people for our calendar events that happens, and so let me just kind of go back and kind of like think on that just a little bit and see how I can get more information.
The bottom of the website also, there's a list of, you can go by date, and it just keeps scrolling on what's available. Sometimes there's like 6 boxes on one date.
I do think I saw that from the City of Fremont's Liaison Committee meeting, and I think they had, it was 3 or 4 events that they wanted to highlight.
Yeah, I think
maybe we can do a little better than that and go 5 or 6.
I think it needs to be the highlighted events and not every event, because there's
But
so many.
If there's 5 or 6 events that you want to bring forward.
But I also recognize that many of our sites reach out to both our board members as well as to our city officials to be able to invite them to come and see their presentations. They're always excited to have you. I do want to thank you for your time and the fact that you've been so proactive with our schools. So I'm not trying to shun you out of it. I just want to make sure that I live up to what your expectation might be, but it's a lot.
I'll say I don't always hear from the sites, so maybe there can be an encouragement to the sites that, hey, the city council would like to hear about everything going on event-wise, so that can be something that happens too.
So Board Member Jones, because I'll be honest with you, I don't typically visit the Newark Unified School District website, but you're saying on the website itself, there's kind of a calendar of events listed on
Well,
there?
if you go to the bottom of the page, there's a scrolling
Kind of just runs?
list of events, and I'm not kidding. Sometimes it's, 3, 4, March 4th, and there's 5 different boxes from 5 different schools or different events, because, so it is a lot. So I would turn this around to say, what kind of events are you interested in us highlighting for you? Because it literally could be super overwhelming.
Yeah, I think at minimum, those events that you as board members feel are important that you be there, maybe that's where we kind of start. If you feel it's important that, we have representation at the middle school for this topic, that then maybe let the city know, and we might then join you. That might be the starting point.
Well, and each one of the board members has a school or two that they tend to focus on, because that was how we chose to kind of divide out the responsibilities. And that does help because, like, I know what school that has my number one, place where I'm going to try to hit as many events as I can. And I don't, and I'm not, and I'm retired and I don't get to all of them. So, yeah, I think it's, I would just say off the top of, like Special Olympics, that is something that is important.
Yeah.
And it highlights a special group of kiddos. And then graduations.
Yeah.
There are some things that are just really super important. I saw you at the play at the high school, doing things like that are enjoyable but informational and gives you highlights different groups of students. I think that's the thing I'm trying to say. Highlighting different groups of students is
Yeah.
important.
And I was at the Special Olympics as well, and Ms. Fakar, I was waiting for you to say, Mayor, as you entered in this discussion, the key point that I heard you say was you didn't want to create additional work for staff, and lo and behold, the first thing you did was try to create more work for staff, so you can't have it both ways. So I think this is a kind of a work in progress, but I think the more we can share some of these community-type events, whether it be the Special Olympics and things of that nature, with the city, who then can disseminate it to us. I'm not looking for you to disseminate it to us. Mr. Benoon and his staff can do that. But again, just as we become, we have a council member who gives us a long list of events that she's going to be hosting herself. So we know what those lists can look like. But I think we want to be there to support the kids, support the teachers, and support your organization and our board members as well. So whatever we can do to further Councilmember Jorgen's suggestion, I would certainly applaud.
All right, if there's not any other comments, I'll look for any members of the public that would like to speak on this item. And seeing none, we will move on to public comment on those items that did not appear on this evening's agenda. If there's any member of the public that would like to speak on any other topic or any topic, now would be the time to do so. Seeing none, we will move on to future agenda items. Requests for future discussion items. I think we had some kind of as a part of our conversation, but if there's anything that we want to formalize here or anything that we didn't bring up but want to talk about at our next meeting, now would be the time to do so.
I would like to request a discussion on the ROP. I have no understanding of the ROP, and I know that we are really active with that program. I know, I think, is it Board Member Thomas that sits on that committee? Yeah, I just have no understanding as to the whole ROP, and
It's the CTE. It's the College Technical Education. That's it. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. It's what houses all those CTE.
And these are kids from Newark, Fremont, Union City kind of thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do think once we hit multiple acronyms, though, it would be good to have a presentation on this.
Just acronyms, yeah. That might take days, by the way.
So
I have a cheat sheet for that.
so that would be a request I would have, just a kind of an update on, not an update, but a summary on the ROP. I just don't know the program well.
We talked about this a little bit before. Mayor talked about the kind of shared use at McGregor. I would like city staff to come up with a more broader survey of how land is shared between school districts and cities throughout Alameda County, the Bay Area. I know there's one good example in the city of Fremont with Bringhurst Elementary, where they built the school, specifically so they could have, school all closed up during the day, and then they can open up as a park on the weekend. I don't know how the administration of that works, and I don't know what other cities are doing. But it seems like, as the school district's going through their 7-Eleven committee process, let's give them some options, some feasible options of, hey, here's what other cities and school districts are doing. We've reviewed these options. Here's what we think might work in the context of the city of Newark and the ability of city staff. And then school district can take that in their committee, and they can be good ideas for the school district or bad ideas for the school district, but they can at least have all the information once they start that committee process. And I know our next meeting is coming up in April. That may be pretty condensed for staff, so if that comes back in October, that's fine.
Speaking of April, the State of the City address is scheduled for April the 18th. And you will certainly all get formal invitations to attend that. I've narrowed the speech down to no more than 3.5 hours, so we should be out of there.
I'll take the over.
So April 18th, you'll get special invitations. Thank you. Oh, excellent. Oh, good.
Are there any other items that we want to add to the calendar now? Again, anything comes up to your head, send it to staff and it'll end up on the agenda.
But our goal has always been to try to get it to either staff within 15 days of the actual meeting, so they have plenty of time to prepare.
Sooner is better,
Yeah.
but.
We gotta hold the date.
Yeah. So then we'll move on to item F2, upcoming meeting dates. So those upcoming meeting dates are April 27, October 26, and January 25. You'll notice that in the past, we've had a meeting in June. Given the school calendar, that June meeting really didn't make sense to have a meeting that ended up in what was the middle of the school summer break. So we'll try doing it with 3 meetings this year, and if we need to add another one for 2027, then the committee at that time can make that decision. Is that something we have to vote on? Do we have to vote on the meeting dates, or just? All right. So we do have to vote on this next item, item F3, that's the election of chair and vice chair. Past practice has been for the vice chair to move up to chair and for the member of the other jurisdiction to move into vice chair. That would be Member Hill moving into the role of the chair and Mayor Hannon as vice chair. And I think it makes sense to go with past practice there, and I'll make a motion to do that.
Boy, you're really quick.
I am.
See if I can slide it in here.
So I would like to offer that, rather than do a rotation, I would like to ask Member Jones if you would like to serve as chair this year. So I just.
I'm actually going to decline for a variety of reasons.
Okay,
but,
too many things.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
I appreciate the vote, though.
Okay, that's fine. I accept.
So you second the motion?
I second the motion.
All right, then we do need to vote on that. Member Jones?
Yes.
Member Hill?
Yes.
Mayor Hannon?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So we get to move this over here.
The power. And just so you know that I'm going to take full advantage of this. And I am actually putting in an application at my school to be the chair of the business department, which is a total of 2 people, and the other person doesn't want it. But my principal is insisting that I put an application in place, and so I will be putting on my application that I am Chair of the Newark Unified School District Liaison Committee. Something?
You do adjourn the meeting.
All right, so without further ado, I adjourn this meeting.